Now, I can tell you, if we went right into the fray, there's a 100% chance of violence, in my opinion, and I do not want to subject. This is another tactic. That's how the left talks today. David Menzies for Rebel News here in downtown Toronto. And folks, before I proceed with today's story, please, if you can, visit journalistdefensefund.com. That's journalistdefensefund.com. You know, we like to bring you the other side of the story, but there are forces afoot that want to prevent that from happening. And on days like this, I need a security detail because there are people who want to physically shut us down. So if you can make a donation, please do. Well, folks, Barnum and Bailey folded their tents back in 2017, but the circus is in town here in Toronto. As you know from our visit last week, we have a group called the Afro-Indigenous Rising Collective. They have actually set up an autonomous zone. In fact, they've done one better than the Seattle Autonomous Zone. They have declared this hodgepodge of tents a sacred circle, and it's a no-go zone. And apparently, Mayor John Tory is fine with that. In a media report in the Toronto Sun, city spokesman Brad Ross said that this was a, quote, peaceful, end quote, encampment. Peaceful. Do you remember what happened just a few days ago when we visited Nathan Phillips Square? Check it out.
I need people here now!
What would you like us to do?
Off my land, that's what I would like.
We've got another gender.
Touch my f***ing elder.
Your elder?
What you're doing is causing a disturbance with everybody here. I need to ask you to leave, okay?
What have I done to cause
You're causing disturbance.
Come on!
Oh, indeed, love is in the air, as well as a few fists. But now another group is meeting up here at Nathan Phillips Square. It is called No Pride in Policing Coalition. They too want policing abolished, much like this group. But in the meantime, they'll settle for the police merely being disarmed. And get this, the guest speaker is none other than Desmond. He's an activist and a failed journalist. He was at an event just on Friday in Durham region commenting on a trial that was taking place, and he instructed outdoors in the public square for members of the media to turn off all their recording devices. And you know what happened, folks? They complied. The mainstream media bent the knee, just as John Tory here has bent the knee as well. In any event, we normally like to go into the heart of the matter. We like to find out who's who in the zoo. But if you can imagine, our security detail has told us this is as far as we can go. And who told our security detail that? The Toronto Police Service. They said that based on the events of last week, we are not to go any further than this line here at Nathan Phillips Square, even though that is the public square. So our constitutional rights, our right to freedom of the press, freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, are being eclipsed because, well, I guess John Tory has told the police, don't get your hands dirty, just let everything go. Let's see what happens. I think they're about to get going. You can expect the usual rhetoric: white supremacy, racism, systemic institutional racism in the police services, etc., etc. But if we can get anyone on camera, we will try to see if they can make sense of it all, at least to us. Hi, sir. Just wondering what brings you out to this gathering today?
No, thank you.
Okay, then. All right. That's kind of par for the course. Hey, guys. What brings you out here today?
Black Lives Matter.
Oh, okay, then. Part of what they're asking for is abolishing policing.
He's from the Nazi one, isn't he? What's Rebel?
From the Nazi organization?
Rebel News?
Rebel News is a website, political commentary, ma'am, and I'm just asking what brings you out here.
All right.
You're not able to articulate yourself?
Yeah, knew it.
So you walked by, you gave the
finger, and they did not physically escort me, but
Okay.
they asked me to leave, and
And who asked you to leave, sir?
4 spokespeople who identified themselves as nothing just simply said, move on. I asked them to move on. I have the same right to express my opinion as they do theirs.
Now tell me, what was it that prompted you to give the finger, sir?
At the moment they yelled, defund the police, I felt great insult and great sadness. I mean, it's insulting beyond belief. These people are Marxists, they're communists, and they're defacing the city. Thank God it's a peaceful protest today, but it's disgusting.
You know what, sir? I want to congratulate you when you said Marxists and communists. It got the expression of woo from the gentleman in the pink and orange team here. That's the first word he said all day. So at least
he's
you've
been standing by. He confronted me in front of the police, and he's trying to restrict me and move me out, but I'm not going to be moved.
It's funny, though, these people talk about systemic racism, and they're all about systemic intimidation, systemic anarchy. It's very odd trying to square this circle, isn't it?
It's very difficult to square the circle. They're left-wing anarchists. They're Marxists. They're going to ruin our society. Let's get rid of them.
David, I'm going to tell you, this focus on police brutality is very valid. What I saw with Chief Adams was really horrific, very touching. But I'm far more concerned about the young black men who are constantly being killed on the streets of Toronto every week. You're looking at
By other young black men.
Other young black men. Why aren't they addressing that?
Yeah, is Desmond Cole going to talk about that issue?
That's the one thing I'd like to ask him if I ever face him. You bet.
Oh, I'm sure he would say something that too is a byproduct of systemic racism.
You look at those Toronto police videos of incidents. There was one where one guy was being charged with 4 murders. 4 murders on the streets of Toronto from one guy. That's incredible. Who's going to do anything about that? Isn't the community itself bound to have some responsibility for that?
It's not the kind of Toronto I grew up in, sir.
No, very different. Very different.
So, as you can see, folks, we have stayed on our side of the demilitarized zone, but it hasn't stopped the Antifa thugs, like so many ants to an open jam jar, coming up to us. Funny thing, too, not a raindrop in the sky, and they've got the umbrellas out. This is ostensibly to block our camera. Now, I can tell you, if we went right into the fray, there's a 100% chance of violence, in my opinion, and I do not want to subject. This is another tactic. That's how the left talks today. It's sound and fury, signifying nothing.
I don't want it. You're a f***ing slime.
What makes me a slime? You can't articulate your position? And then look, we have the first aid guy. He's still lingering around. Sir, I think I might have suffered some ear damage. Do you have some ear drops or something, Mr. First Aid? Another observation I have to make is that par for the course in a black indigenous uprising, if you want to call it that, it is predominantly white young people growing up in the bosom of milk and honey. And, I'm sure if they were to actually answer my questions, you're not going to find many engineers here. You'd find people who are masters in gender studies and that sort of thing. And this is who is dictating public policy, and this is who has the ear of the mayor and city council today. Isn't that astonishing? There really is no sanity and wading into the bosom of insanity. These people are violent, they're belligerent, and if we did go towards the critical mass of them, they would respond violently. We have nice bodyguards here and security professionals, And I don't want them to get hurt like they were hurt last week. Do you remember this peaceful protester? Just take a close look at this, folks. He's down on his hands and knees, and he gets kicked right in the face. Yeah, so that is one of the members of Brad Ross's so-called peaceful demonstration and try to intimidate us. So what did we experience here today? Well, we experienced a little bit of freedom in the public square. Freedom light, let's call it. Certainly not hardcore First Amendment freedom. And like I said, it's sad to see that the police service would, they'd carry out a dereliction of duty by not enforcing the law because they're higher-ups, they're puppet masters here at City Hall. It would not be politically correct to do so. Well, folks, as you just saw, there are forces afoot that don't want us to cover certain stories. Desmond Cole can just tell the mainstream media to turn their cameras off and they'll comply, but we don't do that here at The Rebel. We serve a higher standard, I think, when it comes to telling the truth. So if you can, please go to journalistdefensefund.com, journalistdefensefund.com, make a donation so that we can continue to bring you the other side of the story.